In forensic auditing, we have a principle called the variance threshold. Small discrepancies are errors. Large ones are fraud. But in marriage, the biggest lies don't look like variance. They look like stability. They look like a husband who texts you good morning at 8 o'clock, wires $12 million to an offshore shell at 9, and boards a jet at 10. I didn't miss the red flags because I was blind. I missed them because I was looking for mistakes, and Arthur didn't make mistakes. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My phone vibrated against the mahogany conference table, a harsh insect-like buzz that cut through the senior partner's monologue. I didn't look down. I kept my eyes fixed on the water stain on the ceiling tile above his head. If I looked down, I would look guilty, and I was currently trying very hard to appear like a woman who hadn't illegally accessed a client's server to prove a point. Mara, are you listening? The senior partner, a man whose neck flesh spilled over his collar like rising dough, tapped his pen on my personnel file. We're talking about a 6-month suspension, unpaid. This isn't a negotiation. My phone buzzed again. 2 short pulses, then a long one, then a continuous, angry vibration that rattled the glass pitcher of water sitting between us. I need to take this. I didn't wait for permission. I grabbed the device and slid out of the heavy leather chair, ignoring the partner's indignant sputter. I stepped into the hallway, the cool air of the firm's 34th floor corridor hitting my flush skin. I looked at the screen. Jules, do not answer. I swiped green. I am in the middle of a disciplinary hearing that will determine if I can ever practice accounting again. Shut up. Listen to me. Do not react. Do not scream. Are you standing up? Jules's voice was tinny, distorted by the roar of a turbine engine in the background. My cousin didn't call during the day. She was a pilot for a private charter service out of Teterboro, which meant her hours were vampire hours. If she was calling at 11 in the morning, someone was dead or she was in jail. I'm standing. What is it? Did you crash? I'm on the tarmac at Teterboro. I'm doing pre-flight for a client, a tech bro going to Aspen, but I'm looking across the runway at the FBO VIP lounge. The glass is tinted, but the sun is hitting it just right. Jules, I have to go back inside. I saw Arthur. The name hung in the air, suspended like dust in a sunbeam. My brain tried to process the data point. Arthur was at his office in Midtown. We had coffee this morning. He kissed my forehead. He complained about the traffic on the FDR. That's impossible. He's at work. He has the merger meeting. He is not at the merger meeting, Mara. He is standing at the bottom of the stairs to a Gulfstream G650, tail number November 8 X-ray Charlie. That's a long-haul bird. It's fueled for transatlantic. I pressed the phone harder against my ear, my knuckles turning white. Maybe it's a surprise business trip. The merger is international. Is the redhead international? My stomach dropped. It wasn't a slow sensation. It was a violent plummet, like missing a step in the dark. What redhead? Tall, vintage Chanel suit, sunglasses. She's holding his arm, Mara. Not in a professional way, in a we share a bank account way. He just handed her his briefcase while he adjusted his jacket. He never lets anyone touch that briefcase. Not even you. Send me a picture. I can't get a clear shot. They're moving. They're boarding. Door is closing. I checked the registry. The flight plan was filed 2 hours ago. Destination DXB. Dubai? Dubai. No extradition treaty for financial crimes if you have the right visa. Mara, the plane is taxiing. He's gone. I lowered the phone. The hallway seemed to tilt. The geometric pattern of the carpet swirled. Dubai. The redhead. The briefcase. The door to the conference room opened behind me. The senior partner stuck his head out. Mara, we're waiting. I looked at him. I looked at the man who held my career in his hands, a career I had built over 15 years of 60-hour weeks and missed anniversaries. I have to go, I whispered. If you leave now, it's termination. Not suspension, termination. I didn't even slow down. I walked toward the elevators, my heels clicking a frantic rhythm on the marble. I punched the down button. Mara! The elevator doors slid open. I stepped inside and watched my career close off behind 2 inches of brushed steel. I didn't care. The only variable that mattered now was time. Arthur had an 8-hour head start, but he was in the air. He was offline. I had 8 hours to figure out why my husband just murdered our marriage. The drive to Connecticut usually took 90 minutes. I did it in 55. I wove my Audi through the midday traffic on the Hutchinson Parkway, aggressive and reckless. Every time I hit the brakes, I felt the seatbelt dig into my collarbone. Denial is the first stage of grief, the therapists say. But in auditing, denial is a hypothesis. You assume the numbers are right until you prove they are wrong. He's not leaving me, I told the steering wheel. Jules is crazy. Jules hates him because he made a joke about her tattoos 3 Christmases ago. She saw a guy in a suit and projected, but the details gnawed at me. The briefcase. Arthur was obsessive about that leather satchel. It contained his hard drives, his ledger, his life. He slept with it next to the bed when we traveled. If he handed it to a woman, I gripped the wheel until my hands ached. Maybe it's a client. A high-value asset he needs to court. Maybe the hand-holding was supportive? She tripped? I was building a castle of cards in a wind tunnel. I tried to call him. The subscriber you are trying to reach is not available. Straight to voicemail, not a ring. His phone was off, airplane mode. I threw my phone onto the passenger seat. It bounced and slid into the footwell. I focused on the road. The trees were a blur of green. The world outside was sunny, painfully normal. People were driving to lunch. Delivery trucks were dropping off packages. How could the world keep spinning when the axis of my life had just snapped? I turned off the exit ramp, my tires screeching slightly. The GPS announced, arriving at home in 2 minutes. Our house. The sprawling colonial on the cul-de-sac. We bought it 3 years ago. We overextended ourselves for it. An investment in our future, Arthur had said. A place for the kids. We didn't have kids. We had a mortgage that ate 40% of our combined net income and a guest room that stayed empty. I pulled into the driveway. His car was gone. That was normal. He drove the Tesla to the city. The house looked perfect. The hydrangeas were blooming blue and purple against the white siding. The grass was cross-hatched from the landscaper's mower yesterday. It was the picture of suburban stability. I killed the engine. The silence rushed in. I sat there for a moment, listening to the ticking of the cooling engine. My hands were shaking. I looked at them. They were trembling so hard I couldn't make a fist. Get it together, Mara. Treat it like a crime scene. Secure the evidence. I opened the car door and stepped out. The humidity hit me, thick and cloying. I walked to the front door, my keys jingling in my hand. I fumbled with the lock. The key wouldn't go in. My hands were shaking too much. I took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. I slid the key in. The tumblers clicked. A sound I had heard 1,000 times. But today, it sounded like the cocking of a gun. The foyer smelled of lemon polish and stale air. Arthur? My voice cracked. It was a small, pathetic sound in the cavernous hallway. I dropped my bag on the bench and ran up the stairs. I took them 2 at a time, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Master bedroom. I threw the door open. The bed was made. Military precision. Not a wrinkle. The pillows were fluffed. I went to the closet, his side. I yanked the sliding door open. His suits were there. The navy Brooks Brothers, the charcoal gray, the pinstripe he wore to his sister's wedding. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. See? He didn't leave. You don't leave your suits if you're running away. I ran my hand over the fabric of the navy jacket. It felt familiar. Safe. Then I looked down at the shoe rack. His running shoes were there. His loafers. But his dress boots, the Italian leather ones he bought in Florence, were gone. I looked at the shelf above. The t-shirts were stacked. but the stack looked short. Panic flared again, hot and sharp. I turned to the wall safe hidden behind the full-length mirror. I pushed the mirror aside. The digital keypad stared at me. I punched in the code 091218, our anniversary. The light blinked green, the mechanism whirred. The heavy steel door popped open. I pulled it wide. My jewelry box was there, my grandmother's pearls, the diamond tennis bracelet Arthur gave me for my 30th. I opened the folder where we kept the documents, my birth certificate. Check. Our marriage license. Check. The deed to the house. Check. My passport. I flipped through the pages. Arthur's passport. It was gone. I froze. Okay? He's traveling. He needs his passport. That's normal. But there was a gap in the stack. Something else was missing. The small velvet pouch where we kept the emergency cash. $5,000 in hundreds, just in case. Gone. And the external hard drive. The silver terabyte drive where he backed up our family photos. Why would he take the photos? I sank to the floor, the carpet rough against my knees. He took the cash. He took the ID. He took the memories. But he left the suits. He left the suits because they were heavy, because they took up space, because where he was going, he could buy new suits. He didn't leave me. He discarded me. I looked at the marriage license in my hand, the embossed seal of the state of Connecticut. It felt like a prop, a piece of paper from a play that had just closed. I needed access. I ran downstairs to the study. My laptop was in my bag, but I went to the desktop computer Arthur used for gaming. He didn't game. He watched stock tickers and managed his fantasy football league. I woke the monitor. The login screen appeared. Arthur_admin. I typed in the password. Eagles fly high. Incorrect password. I stopped. I typed it again, slower. EAGLES. Incorrect password. He never changed his passwords. He was lazy with cybersecurity. He used the same password for everything. I tried the variation he used for Netflix. Eagles fly high 123. Incorrect password. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried my birthday. Mara1988. Incorrect password. I clicked, forgot password? The prompt appeared. A verification code has been sent to the phone ending in 88. His phone. The phone that was currently at 30,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean. I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked at me, a rhythmic mockery. I pulled out my own phone and opened the banking app. First Republic Joint Checking. Face ID recognized me. The little circle spun. Access denied. Your credentials have been revoked. Please contact the primary account holder. Primary account holder, I whispered. We opened that account together. I was the one who filled out the forms. I was the one who set up the auto pay for the utilities. But because his name was listed first on the application, the system treated him as the admin and me as the guest. He had revoked my guest privileges. I tried the credit card app, American Express. Card status suspended, reported lost/stolen. He had reported my card stolen. I checked the time, 12:45 p.m. He must have done it from the lounge, while he was drinking his espresso, while he was holding the redhead's hand. He was tapping on his phone, methodically cutting the strings that held my life together. He didn't just leave. He locked the door and set the house on fire with me inside. I felt a wave of nausea roll over me. I ran to the guest bathroom and dry heaved into the sink. Nothing came up but bile and coffee. I rinsed my mouth with trembling hands. I looked at myself in the mirror. My mascara was smeared. My skin was gray. I looked like a ghost. Think, Mara. You're an auditor. You find things people hide. You follow the trail. If I couldn't get into the accounts, I needed to get into the communication. I needed his email. I went back to the kitchen. The iPad. Arthur used the family iPad to read the news in the morning. Sometimes he forgot to close his tabs. It was sitting on the granite island next to the fruit bowl. I pressed the home button. Enter passcode. I typed 121809, our anniversary backwards. The screen unlocked. Thank God for lazy habits. I opened the mail app. It refreshed. Last updated yesterday, 11 p.m. He had signed out of his primary Gmail, but he had forgotten to sign out of the secondary account, the one he used for junk mail, online shopping, subscriptions. I scrolled through the inbox. Amazon, your order has shipped. Netflix, new sign-in detected. Then I saw it. A draft. He must have started writing it and got distracted. Or maybe he couldn't bring himself to send it. I tapped the drafts folder. To Elena, housekeeper. Subject, termination of services. Elena, effective immediately. Your services are no longer required at the residence. Please do not come in on Monday. A final check will be mailed to you. The house will be vacant for the foreseeable future. Vacant, not Mara will be there. Vacant. He was erasing me. In his mind, I was already gone. I dropped the iPad on the counter. It clattered loudly. I needed to talk to someone. Anyone. I dialed our family lawyer, Robert. Robert had known Arthur since college. He was the one who drafted our wills. Robert, it's Mara. Mara. His voice was tight, guarded. I was expecting you to call. You were? Arthur called me this morning, before his flight. He told you? He told me about the breakdown, Mara. I froze. What breakdown? He said you've been having episodes again, the paranoia. He said you might call making wild accusations. He wanted me to make sure you were safe. I am not having an episode, I screamed. The sound tore out of my throat, raw and ugly. He is leaving the country with another woman. He drained the accounts. Mara, please, calm down. Arthur has authorized a transfer to a medical trust for your care. He's not stealing the money, he's protecting it. He's worried you might spend it manically. He is gaslighting you, Robert. You have to stop the transfers. I can't do that. I represent Arthur. And frankly, after this phone call, I'm inclined to agree with his assessment. Do you want me to call your doctor? I ended the call. I stared at the phone. He had paved the road. He had planted the seeds weeks ago, maybe months ago. Mara is stressed. Mara is overworked. Mara is seeing things. So when he finally pulled the trigger, no one would hear a gunshot. They would just hear Mara finally snapping. He was brilliant. He was evil. And he was winning. Rage. It replaced the fear. A cold, hard knot of rage in the center of my chest. He thought I was weak. He thought I was the fragile little wife who would curl up and cry while he sipped champagne in first class. He forgot who I was. I was the auditor who brought down the insolvencies at passing firms. I was the woman who found the needle in the haystack and then burned the haystack down. I needed physical evidence. I needed something Robert couldn't explain away as paranoia. His home office. He kept it locked. Client confidentiality, he always said. I walked to the double oak doors at the end of the hall. Locked. I went to the garage. The tool chest was dusty. I didn't care. I grabbed the claw hammer. The handle was cold and heavy. The weight of it felt good. It felt like a solution. I walked back to the office doors. I didn't hesitate. I didn't knock. I swung the hammer. Crack. The wood splintered around the lock mechanism. I swung again. Crack. The door jamb gave way. White paint chips flew like confetti. I kicked the door. It swung open, banging against the inner wall. I stood in the doorway, the hammer hanging from my hand. The room was a mess. Papers everywhere, drawers pulled out. He'd cleaned it out in a hurry. I walked to the shredder in the corner. It was full. A mountain of cross-cut confetti, visible through the clear plastic bin. I knelt down. I pulled the bin out. Thousands of tiny strips of paper. I reached in and grabbed a handful. I saw a fragment of a logo, a palm tree. I grabbed another, a partial number, 77 to 8. I looked at the mess. It was a puzzle, a 10,000-piece puzzle that held the answer to where my life had gone. I sat on the floor, the hammer beside me. I dumped the shredder bin onto the Persian rug. Okay, Arthur, I whispered to the pile of trash. Let's see how smart you really are. I picked up the first strip of paper. The denial was over. The audit had begun. The carpet was covered in snow. Not the cold, wet kind, but the dry, static-charged blizzard of a cross-cut shredder. My knees ached. I had been on the floor for 2 hours. The sunlight had moved across the room, shifting from the bright white of noon to the heavy golden slant of late afternoon. The house was silent except for the snick hiss of the Scotch tape dispenser and my own shallow breathing. I was reconstructing a crime scene. Most people think shredders are secure. They aren't. Unless you have a Department of Defense pulverizer that turns paper into dust, you are just making a puzzle. And I was very good at puzzles. I picked up a sliver of paper. It was 1/8 of an inch wide and 2 inches long. It contained a single fragment of blue ink, a loop that might have been the bottom of a G or a Y. I scanned the rows of taped-together strips I had already assembled on the hardwood floor. It was like surgery. I was grafting skin back onto a skeleton. My eyes burned. The dust from the paper coated my throat, tasting of bleach and wood pulp. "Come on," I whispered. "Fit." I found a matching edge on row 3. I slid the strip into place. The blue loop connected to a vertical line. It was a G. G-E-O-R-G. George. I found another strip. Town. Georgetown, Cayman Islands. I felt a surge of adrenaline that temporarily numbed the cramp in my back. I grabbed the next cluster of strips. Numbers. I needed numbers. I found a sequence printed in a harsh dot matrix font. Swift, Kiwi. That was a bank identifier. I worked faster now, my fingers sticky with adhesive. I ignored the hunger gnawing at my stomach. I ignored the shadow of the window frame stretching long across the floor. I pieced together the header: Meridian Trust and General. Account holder: Sovereign Shell LLC. Routing: 022498. I taped the last digit down. It was a 0. I sat back on my heels, looking at the Frankenstein document taped to the floor. It wasn't a bank statement. It was a wire transfer confirmation. Date: yesterday. Amount: $12 million. Status: pending final authorization. Destination: Al Masraf Bank, Dubai. The date was yesterday. He had staged the money in the Caymans and initiated the jump to Dubai 24 hours ago. Pending final authorization. That was the choke point. That was why he was on the plane. The Caymans might be shady, but moving $12 million across international borders still triggered flags. They needed a voice verification or a physical token signature to release the funds to the Middle East. He was going to Dubai to catch the money. I looked at the bottom of the document. There was a handwritten note in the margin. Arthur's handwriting. Spiky, aggressive. Reference: VK flight confirmed. VK, the redhead. I scanned the pile of untaped shreds. I looked for the initials. I found a strip with a full name typed out. Veronica Karras. I didn't know the name. I didn't care. She was the key. If she was with him, she was part of the authorization. I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking, not from fear anymore, but from the hunt. I had the bank name. I had the routing number. I had the account name. And I had the accomplice's name. It was time to make a call. I paced the kitchen, the phone pressed to my ear. The hold music was a tinny, synthesized version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. It was designed to be soothing. It made me want to throw the phone through the window. Meridian Trust, Private Wealth Division. This is Simon speaking. How may I assist you? The voice was British, polished, and bored. I took a deep breath. I deepened my voice slightly, adding a tremor of impatience. I needed to sound like a woman who was used to getting her way and was currently inconvenienced. "This is Veronica Karras," I said. "I'm calling regarding the Sovereign Shell account. My partner Arthur is currently in the air and unable to connect to the portal. We're seeing a flag on the transfer to Dubai." There was a pause. The sound of typing. One moment, Ms. Karras. Let me pull up the file. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was social engineering 101. Assume authority. Provide specific details to bypass skepticism. I see the account, Simon said. And yes, the transfer is in the queue. However, I'm seeing a security hold pending the secondary biometric. That's why I'm calling, I snapped. We authorized that biometric yesterday. Why is it still pending? We are landing in Dubai in 6 hours. If those funds aren't cleared, our closing falls through. Do you want to be responsible for a $12 million default? I understand the urgency, Ms. Karras, but the protocol requires the physical token code to be entered from the registered device. Or what? Or a voice authorization from the primary holder. Arthur needs to call. He is on a plane, I lied. The satellite phone is spotty. Look, I have the power of attorney. I'm sending you the verification now. I don't see a power of attorney on file for a Veronica Karras. I froze. It was sent with the packet, I bluffed. Ms. Karras, Simon's voice changed. It lost the boredom. It became sharp, alert. I'm looking at the authorized user list. You aren't on it. Check again. I am checking. And frankly, the voice print on file for the secondary contact doesn't match yours. The secondary contact is listed as... He hesitated. A male. A male? Ms. Karras, for security purposes, I am flagging this inquiry. Please answer the security question on the account. What is the name of your first pet? I didn't know Veronica's first pet. This is ridiculous, I said. I'm hanging up. Ms. Karras, I have logged this attempt as suspicious. The account is now frozen pending in-person verification at the branch. Good, I said, dropping the act. Freeze it. Freeze it hard. I hung up. My hands were sweating. I had failed to get access, but I had succeeded in the secondary objective. I had thrown a wrench in the gears. The account was frozen. Arthur would land in Dubai and find his money locked in a block of digital ice. He would have to go to the bank physically to fix it. That bought me time, but it also told me something terrifying. The secondary contact is a male. Veronica Karras wasn't the secondary account holder. She wasn't the partner in the crime. She was something else. So who was the man helping Arthur move the money? I looked at the shredded paper again. The complexity of it. The shell companies. The offshore routing. Arthur was a consultant. He was smart, but he wasn't this smart. He didn't know how to set up Cayman trusts. He had help, professional help. And suddenly, the silence of the house felt heavy. I wasn't just fighting my husband. I was fighting a network. I needed to know where he was going, not just Dubai, but where. Which hotel? Which meeting point? I needed his itinerary. There was one person who always knew his schedule, the woman who still called him every Sunday to remind him to take his vitamins, his mother, Joyce. I dialed her number. Mara? Her voice was cool, controlled. She didn't sound surprised to hear from me. Joyce, I need to know where Arthur is staying in Dubai. I don't know what you're talking about, Mara. Arthur is in the city. Stop it, I said, my voice shaking with exhaustion. I know he's on a plane. I know about the money. I know about the redhead. I know everything. Silence. A long, heavy silence. He told me you'd be like this, Joyce said finally. Her voice wasn't angry. It was pitying. He said you'd concoct some grand conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. He stole $12 million. He emptied our accounts. He moved the assets, Mara, to protect them. From you. The accusation hit me like a physical slap. From me. You've been unstable for months. Everyone sees it. The way you obsess over your cases. The way you drink. Arthur is afraid you're going to gamble it away or get sued for malpractice. I don't gamble. He's doing the right thing, Joyce said, her voice hardening. He's setting up a new life where he can be safe, where he doesn't have to walk on eggshells around a manic wife. He's with another woman, Joyce, Veronica Karras. He needs a support system, someone stable, someone who can help him through this transition. Transition? He's committing a felony. It's not a felony to leave a toxic marriage, Mara. It's survival. Now please, stop calling. If you continue to harass family members, Robert has prepared a restraining order. Joyce, listen to me. He isn't just leaving me. He's involved with dangerous people. The bank said there's another man on the account. He's in over his head. The only person he's in danger from is you. Goodbye, Mara. Click. I stared at the phone. The betrayal wasn't just marital. It was total. His mother knew. She had known for weeks, maybe months. They had discussed it. They had planned it. Poor Mara, she's losing it. We have to save the money. They had turned my life into a narrative of madness to justify their greed. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I wiped it away angrily. Fine, I said to the empty kitchen. If you want to be the villain, Joyce, I'll treat you like one. I didn't need her to tell me where he was. I had other ways. I looked at the dog's water bowl in the corner. Buster, our golden retriever. Arthur loved that dog more than he loved me. I walked over to Buster's bed. He looked up at me, tail thumping lazily against the floor. Hey, buddy, I whispered. I scratched behind his ears. He leaned into my hand. I checked his collar. The AirTag was there, the little white plastic disc hanging from the D-ring. I frowned. I pulled out my phone and opened the Find My app. Items. Buster's collar. Home. 0 feet away. Arthur's keys. Location not found. Arthur's wallet. Location not found. He had disabled all his personal trackers. Smart. But Arthur was a creature of habit, and he was cheap. I remembered the luggage. We had bought a set of Toomey suitcases 3 years ago, expensive ones, and we had bought a specific travel kit for Buster, a bag for his food, his bowls, his toys. We put an AirTag in that bag too because the airline had lost it once on a trip to Brave Aspen. I ran to the mudroom closet where we kept the luggage. The big suitcases were gone, obviously. But the dog's travel bag, I looked on the top shelf. It was gone. Why would he take the dog's travel bag if he left the dog? Because it was a good bag. It was durable, waterproof, and lined. Perfect for carrying cash, hard drives, or maybe he just grabbed it because it was the right size for carry-on and he didn't want to take the bulky garment bag. I scrolled down the list in the app. Buster's travel bag. The map zoomed out. It spun across the Atlantic. Location, 38,000 feet. Velocity, 560 miles per hour. Last update 2 minutes ago. It was pinging off the plane's Wi-Fi. He had the bag. And because he had the bag, I could see exactly where he was. He was currently passing over the Azores. I zoomed out to see the trajectory. The line pointed straight to the Middle East. But then I noticed something. The projected path. If he was going to Dubai, the flight path usually went further north, over Europe. This line was dipping south, towards North Africa. Why would they fly over North Africa? I tapped the Notify When Found button. I had a tracker on him. He didn't know it. Now I needed to know what was in his head. I needed to get into the cloud. Oracle? I went back to the computer. I knew the password wasn't a standard word. I had tried them all in the first hour. I thought about Arthur. He was sentimental in secret ways. He used dates, but not our anniversary, not my birthday. I thought about the redhead, Veronica Karras. If he was in love with her, or at least infatuated enough to blow up his life, he would use something related to her. I picked up the iPad again. I went to Instagram. I found his profile. It was private, but I was logged in on the iPad. I looked at his following list. 300 people, golf pros, watch brands, tech news. I scrolled. I found a private account. V_K_photography. No profile picture. Just a generic landscape. Arthur had liked every single post. I clicked on the account. It was locked, but the bio had a date. Estimated November 4th, 2022. November 4th, 2022. Was that when they met? I went back to the computer. I typed into the password field for his iCloud, 1104202, to incorrect password. Damn it. I tried variations. November 0422, 202 104. Nothing. I went back to the Instagram bio. There was a quote, "The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Wild." I looked at the date again. November 4th. Wait. I scrolled back through Arthur's own photos. Where was he on November 4th, 2022? I found a post, a picture of a conference room, boring seminar in D.C. learning about AML compliance, AML anti-money laundering. He was at a compliance seminar. I looked at the comments. One comment from a user Rolex writer. "Did you meet the dragon lady?" Arthur had replied, "She's not a dragon. She's a savior." The dragon lady, I tried a new password. Dragon lady 1104 incorrect password. I was overthinking it. Arthur wasn't poetic. He was functional. I went back to the following list. I looked for other connections. I saw an account for a gun range in Virginia, Quantico shooters. Arthur didn't shoot guns. He hated guns. Why was he following a gun range near the FBI Academy? I clicked on a photo tagged at the range. There, in the background of a group shot, was Arthur. He was wearing ear protection. He looked terrified. And standing next to him, with a hand on his shoulder, was a woman with red hair. She wasn't wearing a Chanel suit. She was wearing a tactical vest and a windbreaker that said, "Visitor." The caption read, "Civilian Certification Day, rough crowd." The date on the post, May 12th, 2023, May 12th. I typed it into the password field, Quantico 0512, access granted. The screen flashed white. The iCloud dashboard loaded. "Gotcha," I whispered. I clicked on mail. The inbox populated. It wasn't filled with love letters. It wasn't filled with hotel reservations for romantic getaways. It was filled with PDFs. Subject, Case 499-Alpha-Asset Schedule. Subject, Immunity Agreement-Draft 4. Subject, Flight Logistics/Extraction. My blood ran cold. Extraction. I opened the most recent email. It was from a sender, v.karras@doj.gov, Department of Justice. I stared at the screen. The room seemed to spin. Arthur, the asset transfer must be completed by 1400 hours. Once you land in DXB, the window closes. The cartel knows about the leak. If you don't have the funds in the secure account, we cannot guarantee your placement in the program. Remember the narrative. Your wife is the scapegoat. The shredded documents in your office will point to her as the originator of the embezzlement. We have planted the digital footprint on her laptop. Do not deviate. Stay calm. We are almost home. Agent Karras. I sat back, the chair groaning under me. He wasn't running away with a mistress. He was turning state's evidence. He was the snitch. And Veronica Karras wasn't a homewrecker. She was a federal agent handling his defection. But the worst part, the shredded documents will point to her. We have planted the digital footprint on her laptop. I looked at the laptop I was using, my laptop. I looked at the pile of shredded documents I had painstakingly taped together on the floor. The documents that had my fingerprints all over them now. I had just spent the last 4 hours reconstructing the evidence that was designed to frame me. Arthur wasn't just leaving me. He was handing me to the wolves to save himself from a drug cartel. A siren wailed in the distance, then another. I stood up, knocking the chair over. They were getting louder. They weren't coming for Arthur. He was under federal protection. They were coming for the embezzler. They were coming for me. The sirens were not a concept anymore. They were a physical pressure in the air, a rising wail that vibrated against the double-paned glass of the study window. My brain stalled. The freeze response is evolutionary, a holdover from when we were prey hiding in tall grass. I stood in the center of my husband's office, clutching a handful of taped-together paper strips, listening to the approaching destruction of my life. "They are coming for you, Mara." The email on the screen was the smoking gun, but the barrel was pointed at my temple. "We have planted the digital footprint on her laptop." I looked at my laptop sitting on the mahogany desk. The little green light next to the webcam was on. Had it been on before? Panic surged, hot and acidic. Someone was watching. Not just watching, recording. Every keystroke I had made for the last hour, every search for the Cayman banks, every attempt to guess his password, it had all been logged. To a forensic team, it wouldn't look like a wife hunting for answers. It would look like an embezzler frantically trying to cover her tracks or access her loot. Arthur hadn't just framed me. He had directed a play, and I was hitting every mark. The wail of the sirens grew sharper. They were turning onto the cul-de-sac. Move. The command came from somewhere deep in my gut, bypassing the paralyzed frontal lobe. I couldn't leave the evidence. The shredded documents were the only proof I had of the routing numbers. They were the map to the money. If I left them, the FBI would bag them, tag them, and I would never see those millions again. I grabbed a plastic bodega bag from the trash can, the one I had used to empty the shredder bin earlier. I shoved the taped-up sheets inside. The tape crinkled loudly. I shoveled the loose shreds in on top of them. My laptop. If I left it, they had the footprint. If I took it, I was fleeing with evidence. But if I took it, I still had the tool. Without the laptop, I was just a fugitive. With it, I was a player. I snapped the lid shut. I shoved it into my tote bag. I ran to the window. Blue lights flashed against the oak trees in the front yard. 2 cruisers, unmarked sedans behind them. They weren't sending a patrol car to take a report. They were sending a raid team. The front doorbell didn't ring. A heavy fist pounded on the wood. "Federal agents, open the door!" I didn't answer. I turned and ran toward the kitchen, my socks slipping on the hardwood. I needed shoes. I didn't have time for shoes. I saw Arthur's gardening clogs by the back door. Too big. I shoved my feet into them anyway. "Breaching!" a voice shouted from the front porch. I unlocked the back door, slipping the deadbolt as quietly as I could. The sound of the battering ram hitting the front door echoed through the house like a gunshot. Boom! The wood frame splintered. I slipped out into the humid afternoon air and closed the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I clicked it shut. I sprinted across the patio, the oversized rubber clogs slapping against my heels. The hedge separating our yard from Mrs. Gable's was 6 feet of dense, prickly holly. I didn't look for a gap. I threw my tote bag over the top. It landed with a heavy thud on the other side. I grabbed a thick branch. The thorns dug into my palms. I didn't feel the pain. I pulled myself up, scrambling for a foothold. The rubber clog on my left foot slipped and fell off. I didn't look back. I vaulted over the top, crashing down into Mrs. Gable's prize-winning hydrangeas. The branches snapped under my weight. I rolled, breathless, mud smearing across my white blouse. "Hey!" I looked up. Mrs. Gable was standing on her back porch, holding a watering can. She stared at me, wild-haired, one-shoed, covered in dirt, crouching in her flower bed. "Mara? Is that you?" "Sorry, Mrs. Gable," I gasped, scrambling to my feet. "Buster! Buster got out!" From the front of my house, I heard shouting, "Clear left, clear right!" Mrs. Gable looked toward the noise, then back at me. She wasn't stupid. She saw the fear in my eyes. She saw the bag. "Go," she whispered. She pointed toward the back gate that led to the drainage creek and the strip mall beyond it. "The gate is unlocked." I didn't ask why. I nodded. "Thank you." I grabbed my bag and ran. I limp ran through the wooded buffer zone, the gravel of the creek path biting into my stockinged left foot. I ignored it. I focused on the rhythm of my breathing. In, out, don't vomit. I reached the back of the strip mall, the loading dock of the super stop and shop. I slowed to a walk. If I ran here, I would draw attention. I leaned against a dumpster, gasping for air. I looked down at myself. I looked like a lunatic. One clog, torns, tights, mud. I couldn't go into a public place like this. I saw a donation bin for Planet Aid clothes nearby. It was overflowing. A pair of gray sweatpants and a flannel shirt were half stuffed into the chute. I didn't hesitate. I pulled them out. They smelled of mildew and stale detergent. I stripped off my blouse and skirt right there behind the dumpster. I pulled on the sweatpants. They were huge. I rolled the waist. I buttoned the flannel shirt. I kicked off the remaining clog and put on a pair of discarded sneakers sitting next to the bin. They were 2 sizes too big. I tied the laces tight. I looked at my reflection in the side mirror of a park delivery truck. I didn't look like Mara the auditor anymore. I looked like Mara the homeless woman. Perfect. I slung the tote bag over my shoulder. I walked around the corner to the front of the strip mall. There was a Starbucks on the corner. The logo was a beacon of green light. Wi-Fi. I needed Wi-Fi. The Starbucks was crowded. Teenagers with frappuccinos, a guy in a suit yelling into a headset, a mom with a screaming toddler, noise, chaos. It was the best camouflage in the world. I bought a black coffee with cash, a crumpled $5 bill I found in the pocket of my tote bag. I didn't make eye contact with the barista. I found a small round table in the back corner near the restrooms. I sat with my back to the wall. I put the bag between my feet, the strap wrapped around my ankle. I pulled out the laptop. I didn't connect to the Starbucks Wi-Fi immediately. That was amateur hour. If the FBI was tracking my MAC address, I'd be flagged the second I shook hands with the router. I pulled a small USB drive from the side pocket of my laptop bag, my auditor's toolkit. It had a portable Linux boot drive. I plugged it in and restarted the computer. The screen went black, then filled with scrolling white text. I wasn't loading Windows. I wasn't loading the OS where Arthur had planted the footprint. I was loading a clean operating system running entirely from the thumb drive. I bypassed the internal hard drive completely. Once the Linux desktop loaded, I opened a terminal. I spoofed my MAC address. Then I connected to the Wi-Fi. I was a ghost. I checked the time. 4:15 p.m. Arthur had been in the air for 5 hours. He had roughly 2 hours before he began his descent into Dubai. 2 hours. If he landed, he would be detained by the cartel's people or the local authorities, and the money would vanish into the seizure abyss. Or worse, he would talk his way out of it, access a terminal, and override the freeze I put on the account. I needed to intercept the money before he landed. I opened the browser and routed it through 3 VPNs: Romania, Thailand, Brazil. I logged back into his iCloud. The session token was still active. I needed to find the money. The shredder document said Sovereign Shell LLC in the Caymans. I navigated to the Cayman corporate registry. It was public but opaque. I searched for Sovereign Shell. Status: active. Registered agent. Mossack Fonseca 2. I dug deeper. I needed the banking portal. I found a saved bookmark in Arthur's cloud sync data. Meridian Trust, client portal. I clicked it. The login screen appeared. Username. I tried Sovereign Shell. Password. I paused. I didn't have the password for the bank. I had his iCloud password, but banks usually required unique credentials. I looked at the saved passwords in his keychain. There it was. Meridian Trust /Arthurs_Shell. I clicked autofill. Enter 2FA token code. The roadblock. The physical token on his keychain. The one currently flying at 38,000 feet. I stared at the 6 empty boxes waiting for the code. I couldn't guess it. It changed every 60 seconds. I slammed my fist softly against the table. The coffee rippled. I couldn't get in, not without him. I needed him to log in. If he logged in, I could piggyback on his session. I could hijack the cookie, but he wouldn't log in during the flight. He was relaxed. He thought the job was done. He thought the money was waiting for him. I needed to make him panic. I needed to make him check the bank account now while he was in the air, on the insecure plane Wi-Fi. But how do you contact a man on a private jet who has blocked your number and thinks you're insane? I looked at my phone. Jules. I stared at the VPN tunnel on my screen. I was tracing the data packets from the Find My app. Arthur's iPad was connecting to a satellite uplink. Via Sat3, I ran a tracer route. The signal was bouncing from the plane to a ground station in Italy. The connection was encrypted but not invincible. If I could get him to open a specific link, I could drop a payload, a keylogger. But I needed him to open the computer. I opened a new terminal window. I started coding a script. It was a simple man-in-the-middle attack, but I needed a delivery vector. I couldn't email him. He wouldn't open an email from me. I needed to scare him so badly that he would instinctively check his money. I checked the flight path again. They were over the Mediterranean now. I needed Jules. But asking Jules to help was asking her to end her career. I dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. Mara, I saw the news. There are police cars at your house. CNN is saying there's a federal raid for a massive embezzlement scheme. They're showing your picture, Mara. They're saying you're a fugitive. I know, Jules. Listen to me. Did you do it? Her voice was small, scared. No, Arthur did it. He framed me. He's a federal informant, Jules. He's laundering money for a cartel, and the DOJ is helping him disappear. I'm the fall guy. Oh my God. I can prove it. But I need the money back. If I don't get the money, I can't prove the transaction flow was his. I need to intercept the transfer. How? He's in a plane. Exactly. I need you to talk to the plane. What? I can't just call a Gulfstream. You're a pilot. You have a radio. You know the frequencies. Mara, do you know what you're asking? If I broadcast on an emergency channel or interfere with a flight, the FAA will strip my license. I could go to federal prison. I am already going to federal prison, Jules, for 20 years for something I didn't do. My voice rose, cracking with desperation. A man at the next table looked over. I lowered my head. Jules, I whispered. He took everything. He took the house. He took the accounts. He took my reputation. He even took the dog's bag. He left me nothing but a jail cell. You are the only family I have left who hasn't stabbed me in the back. Please. Silence on the line. I could hear the hum of the hangar in the background. What do you need me to do? Jules asked. Her voice was steel. You said you knew the tail number. November 8 X-ray Charlie. You know the route. Find the frequency for the sector they are in. Rome, Control, or Malta. Whatever. They're likely on 12, 4.6, or 133.5 if they are over the Med. Good. I need you to hail them. Pilot to pilot, professional courtesy. Tell them there's a message for the passenger. What's the message? Tell them. The Sovereign package has a leak. Secure the assets immediately. That's it? That's it. It's code. He'll understand. He'll think the bank account is compromised. He'll log in to check it. And then I catch him. Mara, if I do this, there is no going back. I know. I love you, Jules. Yeah, love you too. Don't get caught before I do. She hung up. I stared at the phone. The trap was set. Now I had to wait for the mouse. I switched back to the terminal. Target IP waiting. Keylogger injector. Ready. I had created a fake login page, a mirror of the Meridian Trust portal. If Arthur tried to go to the bank's website while connected to the plane's Wi-Fi, my script, which I had just embedded into the DNS cache of his iPad via the compromised iCloud sync, would redirect him. And it was a long shot. A Hail Mary. It relied on him using the iPad, not his laptop. It relied on him panicking. My hands were sweating. I wiped them on the dirty sweatpants. I watched the clock. 4:45 p.m. Any minute now, Jules would be radioing the plane. I imagined the cockpit of the Gulfstream, the pilots bored, drinking coffee, the sudden crackle of the radio. Gulfstream 8 X-ray. Charlie, this is private station on guard. Relay for passenger. Would they do it? Would they pass the note? Pilots are gossips. They love drama. If they thought it was urgent, a leak, a problem, they would pass it back. I watched the cursor blink, 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 blink. The waiting was the worst part. In auditing, the numbers don't move. You stare at them until they make sense. Here, the numbers were flying at 500 miles an hour. I took a sip of the cold coffee. It tasted like ash. I thought about Arthur. The way he looked when he slept. The way he used to make pancakes on Sundays. How much of it was real? Was any of it? Or had I just been a mark for 10 years? A long con to build a credit rating and a reputation he could burn when the time was right. The anger flared again, hot and purifying. It burned away the sadness. Focus, Mara. Suddenly, the terminal screen flashed. Connection detected. Device, iPad Pro, Arthur's. Source, Viasat-3 in-flight network. He was online. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Request, www.meridiantrust.ky. He was going to the bank. Jules had done it. The message had been delivered. My script intercepted the request. Action. Redirecting to localhost mirror. On Arthur's screen, 30,000 feet above the ocean, he would see the Meridian Trust login page. It would look identical to the real one. Same logo, same font, but it was mine. Input field, username. Text appeared on my screen, character by character. S-O-V-R-I-G. He was typing. Input field, password, ARTHUR_A_A-L-L. He hit enter. Input field, 2FA token. This was the moment. The Murphy's Law moment. If he didn't have the token, or if he realized the page wasn't loading securely, no HTTPS lock icon, he would stop. But panic makes people stupid, and Arthur was arrogant. He thought he was untouchable. Numbers appeared on my screen. 8, 9, 4, 2, 2, 1. The token code. I had it. I didn't let him log in. I sent his browser a 504 gateway timeout error. Let him think the plane Wi-Fi was failing. Let him sweat. I opened a new tab. The real Meridian Trust portal. I typed in the username. I pasted the password. I typed in the token code, 894221. I held my breath. The token changed every 60 seconds. I had maybe 30 seconds left before this code expired. I hit login. The little circle spun. Verifying credentials. Come on. Verifying biometric. My stomach dropped. Biometric? The voice print? Then the screen flashed. Biometric bypass, trusted device recognized. I wasn't on a trusted device. I was on a Linux boot drive, but I was spoofing his iPad's MAC address. The bank thought I was him. Access granted. The dashboard loaded. Account balance, $12,450,000. Status, held, pending physical branch unlock. The money was there, but it was frozen. The freeze I had initiated in Scene 8 was working too well. I couldn't transfer it out. The suspicious activity flag locked all outbound wires. I stared at the screen. I had the keys to the vault, but the vault door was welded shut. Think. I couldn't wire it to myself, but I could buy something. Internal transfers within the bank's ecosystem sometimes bypass the external wire freeze. I looked at the tabs. Investments, crypto, precious metals, crypto. If I bought Bitcoin, it was still an asset held by the bank. It didn't leave the bank. It just changed form. But if I moved it to a private wallet, that was an external transfer. Blocked. Wait. I saw a notification bell in the corner of the dashboard. Message from admin. Please visit Dubai branch to unlock wire capabilities. I clicked on settings. I found the notification preferences. I found the alerts. And then I saw the beneficiaries list. There was one approved beneficiary that wasn't frozen. A standing order account. Internal Revenue Service. Whistleblower reward holding. What? Arthur had set up a dummy account named IRS Whistleblower? No, it was a real routing number. He was prepared to pay off the IRS if he got caught. Or maybe... I realized what it was. It wasn't his account. It was the DOJ's holding account. The safe harbor he was supposed to deposit the money into if the deal went south, to prove good faith. If I moved the money there, the DOJ got it. Arthur lost it, but I lost it too. I hovered over the button. Transfer all funds. If I did this, nobody got the money. Not me, not him. But if I did this, he arrived in Dubai penniless. The cartel would be waiting. The redhead would realize he was useless. It was the nuclear option. But I wasn't trying to get rich anymore. I was trying to survive. I typed in the amount, $12,450,000. I clicked Submit. Error. Transaction requires voice authorization. Damn it. The screen prompted. Please speak the phrase, "My voice is my password." I sat in the crowded Starbucks. I couldn't speak in Arthur's voice. I looked at my audio files. I had voicemails from him, dozens of them. "Hey, Mara, picking up dinner." "Mara, call me back." I needed "my voice is my password." He never said that, but he was a Sneakers movie fan. We watched it every year. He quoted it all the time. I frantically searched my laptop's backup of our shared videos folder. New Year's Eve 2021. We were drunk. We were doing movie impressions. I opened the file. I scrubbed through the timeline. There. Arthur wearing a party hat, holding a champagne bottle like a microphone. "My voice is my password. Verify me," he shouted, laughing. I pulled my headphones out of the jack. I held the laptop speaker up to the microphone. I played the clip. "My voice is my password." The bank's website spun. Analyzing, match confirmed. Transaction approved. Funds transferred. The balance on the screen dropped to 0.00. I slumped back in the chair. I had just burned $12 million. Arthur was landing in Dubai in 40 minutes. He was walking into a buzzsaw, but I wasn't safe yet. I looked up. 2 men in dark suits were walking into the Starbucks. They weren't looking at the menu. They were scanning the room. Earpieces. They found me. The 2 men didn't run. They moved with the terrifying synchronized calm of predators who know the exit routes are blocked. I didn't run either. Running implies hope. I had no hope, but I had leverage. I slowly closed the laptop lid. The screen went dark, hiding the beautiful, perfect zero balance. I kept my hand on the aluminum casing. "Mara Vance?" The taller one spoke. He wore a navy suit that strained at the shoulders. His voice was low, designed not to spook the civilians. "Federal agents, keep your hands on the table." I didn't lift my hands. I kept them pressed flat against the laptop, feeling the warmth of the processor through the metal. "It's done," I said. My voice sounded strange, hollow but steady. "Hands, Ms. Vance," the agent repeated, reaching for his belt. The glint of handcuffs under the Starbucks track lighting was sharp and clinical. I said, "It's done. The money is gone. If you arrest me now, you lose the chain of custody on the transfer. I am the only one who knows where it went." The second agent, a younger man with a buzz cut, hesitated. He touched his earpiece. "She says the money is moved." I looked at them. $12,450,000. Transferred at 4:58 p.m. Check your timestamp. The taller agent frowned. He grabbed my wrist, pulling my hand off the computer. The physical contact was shocking. Cold, hard grip. He spun me around. "You have the right to remain silent." The handcuffs clicked. The sound was louder than the espresso machine. The cold steel bit into my ulnar nerve. A sharp, electric pain shot up my arm. The coffee shop went silent. The teenagers stopped laughing. The mom covered her toddler's eyes. I was a spectacle. The crazy homeless woman in the oversized sweatpants getting taken down by the feds. "Grab the bag," the tall agent barked. The younger agent grabbed my tote. He grabbed the laptop. "You're making a mistake," I whispered as they marched me toward the glass doors. "I'm not the thief. I'm the repo man." They didn't listen. They shoved me into the back of the black sedan at the curb. The leather seat smelled of stale sanitizer and fear. As the door slammed shut, cutting off the humid air, I closed my eyes. I was in custody, but Arthur was landing, and he was about to walk into a room with empty pockets. The interrogation room was exactly like the movies, only colder. The air conditioning was set to meat locker temperatures. I sat in a metal chair, bolted to the floor, shivering in my damp flannel shirt. The mirror on the wall was one-way glass. I knew who was behind it. The door opened. A woman walked in. She wasn't the redhead. She was older, wearing a pantsuit that cost more than my car. "Assistant U.S. Attorney Miller," she said, tossing a file onto the metal table. "You've had a busy afternoon, Mara, breaking and entering. Hacking a federal database. Wire fraud. Whistleblowing," I corrected. My teeth wanted to chatter, but I clamped my jaw shut. "We found the shreddings in your bag. We found the Linux drive. We know you accessed the account." "Did you check the destination?" She paused. She pulled out a chair and sat down, studying me. "We did. The IRS Whistleblower Holding Trust. That's a bold move." It was the only move. Arthur was landing in Dubai. He was going to use those funds to buy his way into your witness protection program. But he didn't earn that money. He stole it, and he framed me for it. "Arthur Vance is a cooperating witness in a major cartel investigation," Miller said, her voice neutral. "He is under federal protection." "He was," I said, "but the deal was contingent on the assets, wasn't it? He had to turn over the laundered money to prove good faith. No money, no deal." Miller didn't answer. Her silence was confirmation. "I just saved you from giving immunity to a thief," I said, leaning forward as much as the handcuffs allowed. "He wasn't going to give you the money. He tried to lock me out. He tried to leave me holding the bag for the embezzlement while he lived it up on government per diem. You committed a felony to prove a point. I committed a felony to prevent a bigger one. That money is safe in your treasury. If I wanted to steal it, it would be in Bitcoin in a wallet you'd never find. Check the logs. I verified the transfer with his voice." Miller tapped her pen on the table. Tap, tap, tap. "Agent Karras is meeting him on the tarmac right now," she said softly. "Veronica," I said, "the redhead." "Agent Karras, yes." "Ask her," I said. "Ask her what happens when Arthur realizes he's broke." Miller touched her earpiece. "Patch it through. Audio only." She pressed a button on the console in the center of the table. Static hissed, then the sound of wind and turbine engines filled the small room. We were listening to Dubai. The audio quality was crisp. Digital encrypted feed. Gulfstream November 8 X-ray Charlie, blocks arrived, stairs descending. I closed my eyes. I could see it. The heat shimmering off the tarmac. The blinding white sun of the desert. Arthur stepping out, squinting behind his sunglasses, carrying the dog's travel bag. "Arthur," a female voice said, sharp, professional. "Veronica. Welcome to Dubai." "Veronica." Arthur's voice. He sounded confident, smooth. "Good flight. Slept like a baby. Do you have the package?" "Digital access only. Obviously, I didn't carry cash." "We need to verify the hold immediately. The cartel has eyes at the airport. We need to move you to the safe house, but I can't sign the intake forms until the assets are secured." "Relax. I logged in from the air. It's all there. Just need to stop by the branch to lift the freeze. Some glitch with the wife's card." I smiled in the interrogation room. "Glitch." "Open the app, Arthur," Veronica commanded. "Show me the balance." "Here, in the sun?" "Now." The sound of a zipper. He was getting the iPad. "Fine. You guys are paranoid." "Okay, logging in." Silence. Just the wind blowing into the microphone. Then, a confused laugh. "That's weird." "What?" "It says 0. My heart soared. It was a dark, vindictive joy. 0? Veronica's voice dropped an octave. It became dangerous. "It must be a display error. I just checked it an hour ago. It was 12 million. Look, it shows a transfer outbound to... He stopped. To whom, Arthur? To the IRS? Whistleblower Trust? Arthur's voice cracked. I didn't do that. If you didn't do it, Veronica said, cold as ice, then who did? It says voice verification confirmed, but that's impossible. I didn't speak. You played us, Veronica said. The sound of a holster unsnapping. You moved the money to the Treasury directly so you could claim the reward yourself? Is that it? You trying to double dip, Arthur? No, I swear. It must be Mara. She's crazy. She hacked me. Mara is in custody in Connecticut, Veronica snapped. She has no access. You are the only one with the token. Veronica, please. I don't know what happened. The deal required you to surrender the assets personally to facilitate the sting. If the money is already in Treasury, we have no bait. The operation is blown. Wait, we can fix this. Arthur Vance, you are under arrest for conspiracy to defraud the United States government and lying to a federal agent. No, you can't. The cartel will kill me. You should have thought of that before you tried to get cute with the money. Cuff him. The sounds of a scuffle, the dropping of the iPad, Arthur screaming, a high, undignified sound. I have rights. I have a deal. You have nothing, Veronica said. The feed cut out. The silence in the interrogation room was absolute. Miller looked at the speaker, then at me. He thinks you did it, she said, but he can't prove it. The logs show his voice authorized it. Technically, I said, leaning back, he did authorize it. He said the words. I just curated the timing. Miller stared at me for a long time. She wasn't angry anymore. She looked impressed, and maybe a little bit afraid. You realize, she said, that by moving the money to the whistleblower account, you technically initiated a seizure on behalf of the government. I know the tax code, Ms. Miller. The whistleblower reward is 15 to 30% of collected proceeds. You think you're getting a reward? She laughed, a dry, sharp bark. You hacked a bank. I recovered stolen assets. Under the False Claims Act, I am a private citizen acting on behalf of the government to recover defrauded funds. Ki tam. You are a forensic auditor who violated the CFAA. We could put you away for 10 years. You could, I agreed. But if you do, you have to explain to a jury why you arrested the woman who handed you $12 million, while your own agents were letting the thief fly private to Dubai. I held her gaze. This was the gamble, the biggest bluff of my life. I want immunity, I said. Total immunity for the hack, and I want the reward. Miller stood up. She gathered her file. I can give you the immunity, she said at the door. We don't want the PR nightmare of prosecuting a hero wife. But you'll never audit a company again. The board will strip your license before morning. I know. And the reward? She paused. I'll see what I can do, but don't buy any private jets just yet. She opened the door. Oh, and Mara? Yes? Your husband is being extradited. He'll be back in New York by Tuesday. He'll be in the cell next to the cartel boss he was supposed to snitch on. He's going to have a very bad life. Good, I said. She walked out. I sat alone in the cold room. I looked at my hands. They were still shaking, just a little. I had lost my career. I had lost my marriage. I had lost my house. But I had won the game. They released me at 4 a.m. There were no reporters. Miller had kept it quiet. I walked out of the federal building into the cool pre-dawn air of New Haven. The city was gray and quiet. I was wearing my dirty sweatpants and the flannel shirt. I had my tote bag. My laptop was seized as evidence, but they gave me my phone back. I turned it on. 42 missed calls, Mom, my sister, Robert the lawyer, one text from Jules, sent 3 hours ago. Radio silence. Did we win? I typed back. Target neutralized. We won. I sat on a concrete bench near the parking lot. I didn't have a car. My Audi was impounded. I didn't have a ride. I didn't care. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of exhaust and damp pavement, but it tasted sweet. I was broke. I was homeless. I was professionally radioactive, but I wasn't crazy. For the first time in 2 years, the fog in my head was gone. The gaslighting, the self-doubt, the late nights wondering if I was imagining the distance in Arthur's eyes. It was all gone. The truth is a solvent. It burns, but it cleans. I looked at the sunrise starting to bleed orange over the skyline. I needed a job. I needed an apartment. I needed to figure out who Mara Vance was if she wasn't Arthur's wife or the auditor. I scrolled through my contacts. I stopped at a name, Frankie, a private investigator I used to hire for difficult asset traces. He always told me I was in the wrong line of work. "You have the instinct," he'd said. "You think like a criminal." I pressed dial. It rang 3 times. "Mara, it's 4 a.m. "Frankie, I need a job. I heard you were in cuffs. I'm out, and I just took down a $12 million laundering scheme with a laptop and a voice memo. I'm expensive now." Frankie laughed, a gravelly, tired sound. "Come by the office at 9, bring coffee." "Deal." I hung up. I stood up and started walking toward the train station, one step in front of the other. 3 months later, the courtroom was packed. Arthur sat at the defense table. He looked smaller. The prison orange washed him out. His hair was thinning. Stress, or maybe just the lack of expensive salon treatments. He refused to look at me. I sat in the back row. I wasn't called to testify. The DOJ didn't need me. They had the emails, the bank records, and the testimony of Veronica Karras, who turned out to be a very effective witness when she wasn't being played. "Will the defendant please rise?" Arthur stood up. He shook slightly. "Mr. Vance, on the count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, how do you plead?" "Guilty," he whispered. He had to. It was the only way to get protective custody in prison. The cartel had put a price on his head the moment the Dubai deal collapsed. He was safe from them only as long as he was locked in a federal supermax. I watched the bailiff cuff him. The sound was familiar. Click, click. He turned then. He scanned the gallery. His eyes found mine. There was no arrogance left, no smart villain. Just a terrified man who realized too late that he had underestimated the quiet woman who did his taxes. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I just nodded. A small final acknowledgement. Game over. I stood up and walked out of the courtroom before the judge finished the sentencing. Outside, the autumn air was crisp. I adjusted the strap of my bag. I had a client meeting in 20 minutes, a divorce case, hidden crypto assets, easy money. I hailed a cab. "Where to?" the driver asked. "Forward," I said. "Just drive." Outro. They say the person you marry is a stranger you agree to learn over a lifetime, but sometimes you learn the lesson too late. I spent 10 years auditing balance sheets, looking for variance in the numbers, while ignoring the variance in my own bed. Arthur taught me the most important lesson of my life. Trust is not a control. In auditing, we trust but verify. In marriage, we just trust. And that is a vulnerability that no firewall can patch. I lost the life I thought I wanted, the house, the status, the illusion of safety. But I gained the one thing that actually matters, the knowledge that when the floor drops out, I have the wings to fly, or at least the skills to hack the parachute. I took the $12 million and gave it to the government to burn my husband, knowing I might get a reward but leaving him defenseless against a cartel. Was that justice, or was it just revenge? And if you were in that Starbucks with the laptop, would you have pressed enter? If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.